Welcome to Starbound. My name's the Voice Ogre, and I'll be your narrator today. Nearly 500 supporters get early access to our stories, including brand new stories of Sunspire Academy, which I happen to do, and Freyren and Rimiki. If you'd like to unlock early access and support new episodes and future series, tap Join below to become a Starbound member. Now, let's get into today's story. Lieutenant Pelnak had never disobeyed an order in his life. Not once in his 97 stellar cycles of dutiful service to the Dreth Imperium had he questioned his programming, his training, or his purpose. It was the perfect reconnaissance agent, methodical, emotionless, and ruthlessly efficient. So why exactly was he currently hanging upside down from the catwalk of a dilapidated Earth theater covered in something called glitter, helping a human child aim an explosive device at a chandelier?
3 degrees to the left, Mr. P.
The boy, Felix, adjusted a dial on his contraption with alarming enthusiasm.
We need maximum sparkle to boom ratio.
Pelnak sighed, shifting his position to accommodate the request. The motion caused more glitter to cascade from his uniform, catching the light in a way that his Dreth superiors would consider appallingly frivolous. But it had all started so normally. 3 weeks earlier, Pelnak's reconnaissance pod had sliced through Earth's primitive detection systems with typical Dreth precision. The landing coordinates placed him in a wooded area outside a settlement his research identified as Moonvale, a name that made no logical sense as the moon was neither in a valley nor did valleys exist on moons. Typical human irrationality. Landing protocol completed, Pelnak activated his adaptive camouflage matrix. The nanotechnology spread across his grayish skin, adjusting his appearance to approximate human norms while disguising the slightly elongated limbs and oversized eyes. The technology was imperfect. Humans might notice something subtly off about him, an uncanny valley effect his briefing had warned about, but it would suffice. As he stepped from the pod, catastrophe struck. The cloaking system sputtered, emitting a power surge that rippled outward. Pelnak froze, evaluating potential responses as his training dictated. The surge appeared to have only affected a nearby structure, some kind of performance venue according to his database. Dark and apparently unoccupied, acceptable collateral damage. Pelnak secured his pod and approached the building to assess the impact. Standard reconnaissance protocol. Understand all variables. The entrance door hung ajar, its ancient hinges creaking in the night breeze. Inside, emergency lights flickered weakly. Pelnak moved silently through the vestibule, his footsteps muffled against worn carpeting that might once have been red. Faded posters advertising human entertainment rituals lined the walls. His mission brief had emphasized cultural assessment alongside military evaluation. This venue would provide valuable data. A tremendous crash echoed from deeper inside, followed by human vocalizations. Pelnak's hand moved instinctively to his phase disruptor, though mission protocols prohibited his engagement except in life-threatening circumstances. He crept around toward the sound. The theater's main chamber was cavernous, with rows of seats facing a raised platform. The stage, his implanted knowledge supplied. Above, a massive lighting fixture lay shattered across the wooden boards. 3 humans stood nearby, gesticulating wildly.
The performance is in 2 days, Roman!
A tall human female with flowing black garments was speaking, her voice rising and falling with inexplicable intensity.
The universe conspires against us yet again.
But what glorious conspiracy, my dear!
The male, presumably Roman, thrust what appeared to be a thin sword toward the ceiling.
What is art without catastrophe? What is theater without the looming specter of disaster?
Guys?
The third human, younger and holding a glowing rectangle, a primitive communication device, pointed toward Pelnak.
We have company.
3 pairs of eyes turned toward him. Pelnak remained motionless, calculating. His mission was covert observation, Being detected within hours of landing represented significant failure. The pale woman in black approached, moving with fluid grace that reminded Pelnak uncomfortably of the hypnotic undulation of Centurion sand wraiths. Her eyes, lined with dark pigment, widened appreciatively. "Well," she said, her voice dropping to a dramatic whisper, "the theater spirits have answered our plight with a gift." Pelnak blinked, an unnecessary gesture his camouflage performed automatically. "I observed a power disruption. I came to investigate."
An investigator of the darkness.
Roman appeared beside the woman, grinning maniacally.
And just when we lost our lighting technician to that regrettable incident with the electrical system and the swordfish.
The younger human rolled her eyes. "Dad, Terrence quit because you wanted him to wear tights for authentic period lighting."
Authenticity is the soul of the art, Raven.
Roman protested, then turned back to Pelnak.
Do you know anything about theatrical lighting, mysterious stranger?
Pelnak hesitated. His mission required establishing a cover identity and gathering intelligence on human social structures. This scenario, while unplanned, offered optimal infiltration opportunity.
I have experience with illumination systems,
he offered cautiously. It wasn't entirely untrue. The bioluminescent capabilities of Dreth physiology had evolved from their origins in the methane swamps of their homeworld. Before technological advancement had made such biological features obsolete. Most Dreth had their luminescent organs surgically neutralized at maturity, but reconnaissance agents maintained them for emergencies. The woman extended a pale hand.
Cordelia Blackwood, artistic director of the Orpheum Theater and guardian of its tormented spirit. This is my husband, Roman, playwright extraordinaire, and our daughter, social media sorceress.
Pelnak stared at the outstretched appendage, recalling human greeting protocols. He shook her hand awkwardly.
I am Paul.
The cover identity felt strange in his mouth.
Paul Elmack. Magnificent! A name with gravitas.
Roman clapped him on the shoulder, a gesture Pelnak's training identified as friendly, though his instincts classified it as threatening.
You arrived at our darkest hour, Paul. Our ancient chandelier has collapsed, our lighting system is possessed by malevolent spirits, and opening night of my masterpiece approaches.
That means the wiring is shot, probably from when your car hit the power pole outside. Raven clarified, still tapping on her device. And his masterpiece has 17 scene changes in a live vulture.
The vulture's a metaphor,
Roman insisted. Cordelia glided closer, studying Pelnak with unnerving intensity. His camouflage should be adequate, but her scrutiny made his secondary heart accelerate.
There's something unique about you, Paul, she finally said. An aura of otherness, a beautiful strangeness.
Pelnak began calculating escape vectors. Had his cover been compromised already?
He's perfect!
Cordelia exclaimed suddenly.
Not just for the lighting emergency, but for the role of the emissary.
The emissary? Pelnak echoed.
A pivotal character in my opus,
Roman explained, throwing an arm around Pelnak's shoulders and guiding him towards the stage.
A mysterious visitor from a distant realm who brings both doom and enlightenment. Art mirrors life, does it not?
Pelnak froze. This was impossible. They couldn't know his true purpose, unless humans possessed psychic abilities undocumented in Dreth intelligence. Roman continued, oblivious to Pelnak's internal crisis.
Our previous emissary quit after creative differences. Apparently suspended 30 feet above the stage while reciting cosmic poetry was unsafe and absolutely insane.
Snowflake, Raven muttered. Cordelia swept her arms in a gesture encompassing the theater.
Join our little family of magnificent oddities, Paul. We offer room and board in our haunted attic apartment in exchange for your lighting expertise and embodiment of the emissary. Pelnak's analytical mind raced. The scenario offered perfect cover for his mission. Shelter, human interaction data, cultural immersion. I accept your proposal, he said formally.
Splendid!
Roman clapped his hands.
Raven, show our newest family member to his quarters while your mother and I contemplate how to re-block the ritual of eternal yearning without the trapeze.
The trapeze is everything, darling, Cordelia said with deadly sweetness. It's the centerpiece of my directorial vision.
Of course, my Gothic orchid.
Roman kissed her hand with theatrical passion.
Your vision is our salvation.
Raven motioned for Pelnak to follow her. Come on, before they start doing the weird tango thing. Trust me, no one needs to see that. As Pelnak followed the human adolescent up creaking stairs, his implanted mission directives pulsed reassuringly. Infiltration proceeding successfully. Cover established. Intelligence gathering initiated. Yet somewhere beneath his emotional suppression implant, an unfamiliar sensation stirred. Something dangerously close to curiosity. The Blackwood family, Pelnak quickly discovered, defied all Dreth parameters for normal human behavior. His attic quarters overlooked the theater's main dome and featured wall coverings depicting human skeletal structures, furniture carved with extinct Earth predators, and lighting fixtures shaped like primitive flame devices. Raven had described it as cozy and perfectly normal, raising significant questions about human habitat standards. The family themselves proved equally confounding. Roman Blackwood spent his days alternating between manic revisions of his 17-act production and spontaneous fencing demonstrations, often combining both activities by lunging at furniture while reciting revised dialogue. His emotional states fluctuated with no discernible pattern or cause, from ecstatic creativity to melodramatic despair within moments. Cordelia moved through the theater like a shadow given elegant form, speaking in measured tones about the sacred space between tragedy and transcendence. She conducted rehearsals with precision that would impress even Dreth military commanders, yet regularly paused proceedings to, quote-unquote, feel the ancestral theater spirits guiding our artistic journey. Their son Felix, a small human with disturbing enthusiasm for combustion, had converted a storage area into what he calls his laboratory, but with safety protocols that would classify as a significant hazard to planetary habitability. The boy had immediately attached himself to Pelnak, peppering him questions about chemical reactions that make the best booms. Granny Esmeralda, Cordelia's mother, occupied a section of the theater basement filled with artifacts from what she called her world travels and dimensional excursions. She brewed suspicious concoctions in ancient vessels and measured ingredients using a system comprehensible only to herself. Magnus, the stagehand who communicated primarily through monosyllabic utterances and seemed anatomically improbable for a standard human, moved scenery with silent efficiency. His secondary occupation appeared to be creating intricate paper folding art, producing delicate structures that he placed throughout the theater. Uncle Otto, whose precise familial relationship remained unclear, managed the electrical systems with methods that violated every safety protocol in Pelnak's extensive database. The man seemed to absorb electrical charges without ill effect, casually handling exposed wiring while explaining his theories about the sentient nature of electron flow. Most perplexing was Raven's creation. Scuttle, a small mechanical construct assembled from discarded components that delivered items throughout the theater. The device displayed rudimentary autonomy that, while primitive compared to Dreth robotics, demonstrated impressive resourcefulness given Earth's technological limitations. On the fourth day of infiltration, Pelnak encountered the final member of the theater company, Ivy Harper, stage manager. Unlike the Blackwoods' theatrical mannerisms, Ivy moved with efficient purpose. Her appearance, green pigmented cranial hair,
Multiple dermal illustrations and metal facial ornaments suggested artistic rebellion. Yet her organization systems displayed military precision. She carried a data recording device she called the Clipboard of Salvation, containing the production's complete operational details.
"So, you're the new victim,"
she said upon meeting Pelnak, evaluating him with unsettling directness.
"The emergency lighting guy / replacement emissary / newest Blackwood collectible."
"I am assisting with illumination engineering and performing, yes," Pelnak confirmed, careful to maintain his cover identity. Ivy's mouth curved slightly.
"Yeah, and they've got you speaking like them already."
She consulted her clipboard.
"According to Roman's latest revisions, the emissary now has a transcendent monologue about exploring the cosmic void between emotion and oblivion, whatever that means."
"I will study the revised communication patterns," Pelnak assured her.
"Bet you will."
Her eyes narrowed slightly.
"Where did Cordelia find you anyway? You don't move like an actor or a technician."
Warning indicators flashed in Pelnak's peripheral awareness. The stage manager demonstrated dangerous observational acuity. "I was nearby when the illumination fixture collapsed," he explained. "It's a fortunate coincidence." Ivy made a notation on her clipboard. "Well, Paul, we need to test the new lighting board ASAP. The old one fried in the power surge, and Otto's replacement looks like it might summon demons or explode. Possibly both." She led him to the control booth, where Uncle Otto stood before a bewildering array of salvage components wired to the theater's main system.
"Behold!"
Otto gestured grandly, a motion causing his wild hair to generate static electricity.
"The Phoenix system, risen from the technological ashes. I've bypassed the conventional current limitations by channeling the theater's natural electromagnetic anomalies."
Pelnak examined the construction with professional interest. The design was chaotic, yet demonstrated innovative solutions to component limitations. Particularly intriguing was Otto's integration of crystalline structures alongside conventional circuitry. A crude but effective approach to signal amplification.
"The configuration is unorthodox,"
Pelnak observed.
"Ha! The narrow-minded fools at the electrical licensing board said the same thing."
Otto connected a final wire with his bare hands, absorbing a shock that would incapacitate most humans.
"Try it now."
Pelnak interfaced with the control system, finding the layout illogical yet strangely intuitive. As he adjusted settings, his natural bioluminescence responded to the electrical field, causing a subtle glow beneath his camouflage.
"Whoa,"
Ivy said, noticing the effect.
"Are you glowing?"
Pelnak's risk assessment subroutines activated. Cover compromise imminent.
"Advanced bioluminescent body modification,"
Otto declared before Pelnak could respond.
"I recognize experimental organic tech integration when I see it. A living light conductor. Brilliant."
"It's for a performative art installation I participate in," Pelnak improvised, recalling a cultural reference from his intelligence briefing.
"Our new family member becomes more fascinating by the moment."
Otto clapped him on the shoulder.
"A fellow explorer of unconventional energy systems, I see."
Ivy's suspicious expression remained, but she returned to her clipboard.
"Whatever light up body mods that you've got, we need to focus them on the stage. First technical rehearsals in 6 hours."
"I shall endeavor to create appropriate illumination effects," Pelnak assured her. As Ivy left to address other production crises, Otto leaned closer to Pelnak, his voice dropping conspiratorially.
"Your energy signature is remarkable,"
the man said.
"Not like any conventional modification I've encountered."
Pelnak's hand moved closer to his concealed phase disruptor.
"The Blackwoods have hosted many unusual individuals over the past years,"
Otto continued, smiling.
"Visitors from all all manner of distant places. Your secret, whatever it may be, is safe within these walls.
Before Pelnak could analyze this cryptic statement, Otto patted the lighting console affectionately.
Now, let us see what you can do with my beautiful monstrosity. The performance waits for no being.
That evening's rehearsal exposed Pelnak to the most disturbing aspect of human behavior: unregulated emotional expression. The Dreth controlled emotions through mandatory implantation. From hatching, citizens received progressively stronger emotional dampening devices until reaching maturity, when full suppression becomes mandatory. Feelings were inefficient, messy, dangerous. The path to species perfection required their elimination. Yet here were humans, deliberately inducing emotional states for no practical purpose.
More anguish, Bernard!
Cordelia instructed an actor portraying the doomed astronomer.
Your calculations have revealed the universe's inevitable heat death. Every star will perish. All meaning extinguished. I should feel your existential despair in my marrow.
The human male obligingly contorted his facial features and produced loud vocalizations, indicating distress. Around him, other performers enacted various emotional displays: grief, passion, terror, and inexplicable euphoria. Remarkable variety of psychological states, Pelnak murmured as he adjusted lighting effects from the control booth. Highly inefficient for information transfer. That's kind of the point of theater, Ivy responded from her position beside him. It's not about efficiency, it's about the experience, feeling something together. Pelnak considered this alien concept while monitoring the illumination levels. What productive purpose does simulated emotion serve? Ivy gave him that increasingly familiar look. The narrowed eyes that suggested he'd said something unusual, even by Blackwood standards. It helps us understand ourselves, she said finally. Process things we can't put into words. Connect with each other. Pelnak adjusted a setting, creating a blue-tinted effect that emphasized the performer's distress indicators. Connection through artificial psychological disturbance. Counterintuitive. Says the walking light installation, Ivy muttered, making another notation on her clipboard. Speaking of unnatural, you've been here for 4 days and I haven't seen you eat anything except for those weird protein bars you carry. Another warning indicator activated in Pelnak's awareness. His nutrient requirements differed from humans, necessitating supplementation from his mission supplies. Dietary restrictions, he explained. Uh-huh. Ivy's suspicious expression intensified. And you never seem to sleep either. Otto mentioned you were recalibrating light filters at 3 a.m.? I require minimal rest periods. And sometimes, when you think no one's looking, you talk to your watch. Pelnak's third heart accelerated. His communication device resembled Earth timepieces, but enabled encrypted contact with Dreth Command. He had been transmitting mission updates during calculated periods of minimal human activity. It's a health monitoring device, he attempted, with voice-activated functionality. Before Ivy could pursue her interrogation, a commotion erupted on stage. Felix's atmospheric enhancement device had malfunctioned, releasing an excessive quantity of fog combined with unexpected pyrotechnic effects. As Pelnak assisted with emergency protocols, primarily consisting of Magnus throwing buckets of water in the general direction of the conflagration, Granny Esmeralda appeared beside him with an unsettling silence. Looks like you could use my special tea, dear, she said, offering a steaming cup containing liquid of unidentifiable color. Family recipe. Soothes the nerves and expands the mind. Pelnak's sensory analysis detected compounds his database couldn't identify. Protocol dictated refusing unknown substances, but declining might appear suspicious. Thank you, he said, accepting the cup hesitantly. The liquid tasted simultaneously bitter, sweet, and somehow geometric. As it reached his digestive processing organ, Pelnak detected an unusual reaction. The compound's molecular structure was interacting with his emotional suppression implant's frequency, creating interference patterns. Warning signals cascaded through his system as the implant's effectiveness decreased by approximately 36%. Emotional regulation compromised. Full suppression failure imminent. On stage, Roman was demonstrating to the doomed astronomer how to properly collapse in existential despair, flinging himself across the set with melodramatic abandon.
My atoms came from ancient stars!
The playwright proclaimed, gesturing grandly towards the rafters.
And to stardust they shall return! The cosmic joke of consciousness! To know we are but temporary arrangements of matter with delusions of permanence!
The absurdity of the scene. The grown human writhing on the floor while discussing atomic theory and iambic pentameter created an unprecedented physiological response in Pelnak. A strange pressure built in his thoracic cavity, traveled upward, and escaped as a series of rhythmic vocalizations. He was laughing. The sensation was overwhelming, terrifying, exhilarating. Ivy stared at him in astonishment. "That's the first time I've heard you laugh." Pelnak attempted to regain control, but Granny's tea had temporarily disabled his regulatory systems. More laughter emerged, accompanied by an alarming release of endorphins and neurotransmitters his implant usually suppressed.
I need to perform maintenance.
He managed, stumbling from the booth towards his quarters. He sealed the door behind him, attempting to process this system failure. The emotional cascade continued for 17.3 minutes before his implant gradually reasserted control. Even then, dangerous after-effects lingered. A persistent sensation his human cultural database identified as amusement, and lingering neural patterns resembling enjoyment. When his communication device signaled an incoming transmission from Dreth Command, Pelnak was still experiencing unscheduled facial muscle contractions, what humans called smiling. The holographic display activated, revealing Commander Drath's stern features.
Lieutenant Pelnak.
The commander began without preamble.
Your latest reports contain disturbing irregularities.
Pelnak straightened reflexively.
Specify irregularities, Commander. Your assessments of human capabilities appear inconsistent with established intelligence.
Drath's eyes narrowed.
You describe them as simultaneously primitive and possessing unpredictable creative adaptability that represents potential strategic concerns.
My observations indicate complex contradictions in human development patterns. Pelnak explained carefully.
Their technological progress is uneven, but demonstrates unconventional innovation in specific domains.
Indeed. Drath studied him with disturbing intensity.
Your most recent transmissions contained background audio our analysts found peculiar. Ritualistic vocalizations and something our cultural database identifies as dramatic monologuing.
Pelnak's circulatory organs contracted. The theater rehearsal must have been captured by his communication device.
I have infiltrated a human cultural production facility, he explained. The behaviors are performance rituals for social cohesion purposes.
Drath appeared unconvinced.
The High Command is concerned about potential contamination, Lieutenant. Your transmissions suggest increased exposure to human irrationality. I assure you, my emotional suppression system remains functional.
Pelnak lied, ignoring the lingering effects of Granny's tea.
My mission proceeds according to parameters. See that it does.
Drath's expression hardened.
You will continue gathering intelligence on human weakness for our invasion strategy. Given these anomalies, I will personally review your findings.
Expect my inspection visit at the conclusion of your reconnaissance period. The transmission ended, leaving Pelnak in darkness, broken only by the faint bioluminescent glow he could no longer fully suppress. Commander Drath was coming to Earth. The invasion planning would proceed. Humans, with their theater and laughter and inexplicable kindness, would be subjugated or eliminated to make way for Drath expansion. But for the first time in his existence, Lieutenant Pelnak found himself hoping for mission failure. In the following weeks, Pelnak's carefully constructed worldview continued to deteriorate. The theatrical production advanced towards its opening date, consuming every waking hour of the theater company. Pelnak found himself integrated into what Cordelia had called our grand collaborative madness. His role expanding beyond lighting design to include performance, technical problem-solving, and what Roman termed existential moral support. The emotional episodes continued, each more destabilizing than the last. When Felix successfully created a pyrotechnic effect that produced the specific color pattern Roman had envisioned, Pelnak experienced pride in the boy's achievement. When Magnus silently presented him with an intricate paper creation of a constellation visible from Earth, Pelnak felt touched by the gesture. Most dangerous were his interactions with Ivy Harper, which produced complex emotional responses his suppression implant increasingly struggled to regulate. Their conversations during late-night technical sessions moved from production logistics to philosophical discussions about consciousness, art, and existence. "So what are you really from, Paul?" she asked one night as they finalized lighting cues. "And don't give me some vague answer about traveling extensively." Pelnak focused on the control console. "My origin is not relevant to our current task. It is when you're calculating light refraction angles in your head using math I've never seen before." She leaned against the console. "And when you occasionally slip and refer to humans as if you're not one of them." Warning indicators flashed urgently in Pelnak's vision. Covert protocols had been compromised. "I don't know what you mean," he attempted. "Yesterday you said, and I quote, 'Humans process visual information through remarkably primitive optical sensors, yet extract significant emotional meaning from color variations.'" She set down her clipboard. "Normal people don't talk like that." "Perhaps I am not normal," Pelnak conceded. "No kidding." Ivy's expression softened slightly. "Look, the Blackwoods collect weirdos. It's kind of their thing. They don't care where you're from or what you are, but I'm responsible for making sure this production doesn't literally kill anyone, so I need to know if there's something about you that might be relevant to that goal." Pelnak calculated potential responses, risk factors, and mission parameters. Standard protocol dictated maintaining cover at all costs. Yet standard protocol hadn't anticipated Ivy Harper or the Blackwoods, or the way his personal directive algorithms had begun reorganizing around protecting these irrational, emotional, wonderful humans. "I'm not from this place," he said finally. "I gathered that much. I mean..." Pelnak hesitated, then pointed upward. Ivy followed his gesture toward the ceiling, then higher, comprehension dawning in her eyes. "Holy shit," she whispered. "You're not kidding." "My species is called the Dreth," Pelnak continued, emotional suppression failing as anxiety flooded his system. "I was sent to gather intelligence on human weaknesses, for strategic purposes." "You're a space spy," Ivy said flatly. "Reconnaissance specialist," Pelnak corrected automatically. "For an invasion." Her voice remained eerily calm. "You're gathering intel so your people can invade Earth." Pelnak's communication device felt suddenly heavy against his wrist. His mission, his duty, his purpose. "That is correct," he admitted. Ivy stared at him for 12.7 seconds, then picked up her clipboard and made a notation. "Well, that explains the weird protein bars and the glowing thing.
She looked up at him. So what's the plan? Blackwoods get vaporized after helping you complete your mission?
No.
The forceful denial surprised even Pelnak.
I would not. I've been sending misleading information, emphasizing human unpredictability, suggesting strategic complications.
You're sabotaging your own mission?
I find I cannot.
Pelnak struggled to articulate the complex emotional algorithms now governing his decision matrix.
The Dreth believe that emotions are weakness, inefficiency to be eliminated. But here, among humans in this theater, I have discovered
that feelings matter? Ivy suggested.
That feelings are data.
Pelnak corrected.
Valuable data. My species has eliminated crucial processing capacity by suppressing emotional cognition. You create beauty from chaos, connection from vulnerability, art from pain.
The theater below them had emptied, the rehearsal concluding hours ago. In the stillness, Pelnak removed his emotional suppression implant's external control node. A small device at his neck, normally hidden by his clothing.
This regulates my emotional responses,
he explained, showing her the device.
Without it, I experience unfiltered sensory and emotional input. It is overwhelming, disruptive, magnificent.
Your people neutered their own feelings, Ivy said. That's messed up.
Perhaps.
Pelnak reattached the device.
But my commander is coming to verify my reports. If he discovers my deception, the invasion timetable will accelerate.
When?
Opening night of the production.
Ivy's expression shifted through multiple emotional indicators. Surprise, concern, calculation, and finally, determination.
Then we're going to give your commander one hell of a show,
she said, reaching for her communication device. I need to call an emergency meeting. The Blackwoods are going to love this. Felix discovered a fragment of a damaged communication array Pelnak threw away 3 days before opening night. Look what I found behind the old dimmer rack, the boy exclaimed, holding the crystalline component. It's perfect for my new special effect. Before Pelnak could intervene, Felix had incorporated the fragment into an elaborate control panel for his atmospheric enhancements. The integration created an unexpected consequence. The device began amplifying and broadcasting fragments of theater activity through Pelnak's primary communication channel. Dreth Command received portions of script readings, sound effect tests, and Cordelia's increasingly metaphysical direction notes. Most concerning, Felix's device occasionally transmitted when Pelnak was discussing contingency plans with the Blackwoods, who had embraced the alien revelation with disturbing enthusiasm.
A visitor from the stars,
Roman had exclaimed when Ivy orchestrated Pelnak's confession.
The cosmic muse I've been awaiting.
A testament to the universe's glorious diversity, Cordelia agreed, studying Pelnak with new appreciation. No wonder you embodied the emissary role so authentically. Can you disintegrate things? Felix asked hopefully.
Does your species have poetry, philosophy, interpretive dance?
Roman demanded.
Are your dietary restrictions because you require organic matter with specific molecular structures?
Granny Esmeralda inquired. I have supplements for that. Only Raven had reacted with appropriate concern. So we're basically hosting an advanced scout for an alien invasion. Cool. Should I update our social media bio to last bastion of human civilization, or is that too on the nose? The Blackwoods, confronted with existential threat, had immediately reconceptualized it as a theatrical problem. Their solution? Modify Roman's already incomprehensible production to present humanity as simultaneously too chaotic to conquer and too insignificant to bother with. Your commander must leave convinced that humans are both terrifying and useless, Cordelia explained during a strategy session disguised as a blocking rehearsal. The perfect predator appears harmless until it strikes.
Operation Cosmic Deterrence, as Roman grandiosely named it, involved subtle script modifications, strange technical malfunctions, and what Granny called perceptual enhancements incorporated into her atmospheric fog formula. When Commander Drath's ship entered Earth's orbit precisely as predicted, the Orpheum Theater was prepared for its most important performance. Opening night arrived with typical theatrical chaos. Last-minute costume malfunctions, technical glitches, and Roman's 20th revision to the climactic monologue created the familiar atmosphere of controlled panic Pelnack had come to recognize as normal production procedure. Ivy coordinated the controlled chaos with clipboard in hand, somehow appearing simultaneously everywhere at once. She paused beside Pelnack as he made final adjustments to the lighting system. "Your boss confirms he's coming tonight?" Pelnack nodded. Commander Drath's transmission indicated he will observe the entire performance to assess human cultural patterns before making contact. "Perfect." Ivy consulted her clipboard. Cordelia added some special direction for the second act that should help convince some humans are completely unhinged. Felix's atmospheric effects are primed for maximum disorientation. Granny's fog machine includes compounds that she says will heighten sensory receptivity for your species. "That is concerning," Pelnack admitted. "Hey," Ivy's hand touched his arm, a gesture that sent unregulated emotional data cascading through his system. "We've got this. No one out theatrics the Blackwoods." "The stakes are considerable," Pelnack reminded her. "If we fail, my commander will accelerate the invasion timetable. Then we won't fail?" Her confidence registered as a statistical anomaly in his probability calculations. "Operation Cosmic Deterrence is go for launch." She hesitated, then quickly pressed her mouth against his. A human gesture of affection his cultural database identified as a kiss. Before Pelnack could process the resulting emotional surge, Ivy had disappeared backstage, clipboard raised like a tactical shield. From his position in the lighting booth, Pelnack observed Commander Drath enter the theater 15 minutes before the curtain. The commander's human disguise was noticeably inferior to Pelnack's own, with proportions that would register as uncanny to human perception. Nevertheless, he took his assigned seat, a data collection device disguised as a program clutched in his hand. "Places, everyone!" Cordelia's dramatic whisper carried through the communication system. "Remember, we perform not just for art tonight, but for humanity's future." "No pressure," Raven muttered from her position managing the digital effects. Roman's production, Passion's Deathless Embrace, a romantic tragedy in 17 acts, had been incomprehensible before the anti-invasion modifications. Now, it defied categorization in any known artistic taxonomy. The first act introduced 3 primary characters: the doomed astronomer discovering universal entropy, the paradox priestess interpreting cosmic phenomena through interpretive dance, the chronologically displaced Victorian explorer adapting to future society, and the emissary, Pelnack's role, arriving from beyond conventional dimensions with warnings of cosmic disruption. The plot, insofar as one existed, involved the characters navigating existential crises while engaging in increasingly improbable romantic entanglements and philosophical debates. Scene transitions occurred with dreamlike discontinuity. Narrative threads appeared and then vanished without resolution, and dialogue oscillated between florid poetry and bizarre non-sequiturs. Throughout the first act, Pelnack observed Commander Drath's growing confusion. Every aspect of the production seemed calculated to disorient. Felix's pyrotechnics created inexplicable color patterns. Magnus shifted scenery with timing that defied logical narrative progression, and the performers delivered emotional displays that registered as increasingly alarming on Drath's monitoring device. During the astronomer's lament about cosmic insignificance, Granny's special fog formula began permeating the theater. Pelnack recognized the molecular signatures, compounds specifically reactive with Drath neurology. Commander Drath's posture stiffened as the chemicals bypassed his emotion suppression systems. At intermission, Pelnack activated the theater's security monitoring system, another of Raven's surprising technological achievements, to observe Commander Drath. The commander remained in his seat while human audience members filtered into the lobby. his data device frantically analyzing the performance.
Lieutenant Pelnak.
Drath sub-vocalized into his communication implant.
Report to my position immediately.
Pelnak hesitated. The confrontation had been anticipated, but not until after the performance. He glanced toward the stage where the Blackwoods were implementing final adjustments to their deterrence plan.
I cannot comply at present,
he responded. My cover role requires preparation for the second act.
Your transmission patterns have become erratic,
Drath continued, his voice carrying the flat affect of maximum emotional suppression.
The performance contains concerning indications of human psychological irregularity. I detect potential contamination in your thought patterns. I am gathering critical intelligence,
Pelnak insisted.
The second act will demonstrate further significant findings.
Before Drath could respond, Roman's voice echoed throughout the theater.
Places for Act 2! Remember, transcendence through calculated madness.
As the audience returned to their seats, Pelnak monitored Drath's growing discomfort. The commander's disguise was beginning to fluctuate as his concentration faltered, a concerning development that might expose both Drath to the human detection. Act 2 began with Raven's modified projectant sequence, ostensibly depicting cosmic phenomena, but actually showcasing human art, emotion, and expression through rapidly sequenced imagery. The bombardment of unfiltered emotional content visibly affected Drath, whose data collection device recorded frantically. The modified script now emphasized humanity's chaotic nature. Cordelia, as the Paradox Priestess, delivered a monologue explicitly rewritten as a warning.
We are the contradiction embodied, fragile yet indestructible. Our strength lies in our broken places, our wisdom in our foolishness. Any who seek to quantify us will find only the infinite equation of our unpredictability.
Pelnak's emissary character, originally written as mysterious and aloof, now conveyed growing admiration for human resilience. His climactic scene with Ivy, who had taken over the astronomer's assistant role after Bernard's convenient scheduling conflict, deviated significantly from rehearsal.
Your species fascinates me.
Pelnak delivered his line while navigating the treacherously constructed set, now enhanced with Felix's special effects, creating unsettling spatial distortions.
Because we're unpredictable?
Ivy responded, moving closer than the blocking indicated.
Because you embrace chaos rather than fearing it.
Pelnak continued, aware of Commander Drath's intense focus.
You create beauty from disorder, meaning from randomness.
Weird messy, Ivy acknowledged, her eyes conveying multiple emotional signals simultaneously.
Complicated. Probably not worth the trouble of trying to understand. Perhaps that is your greatest defense.
Pelnak improvised, the truth of the statement resonating beyond the performance.
Any who sought to impose order upon you would find themselves transformed instead.
The moment held significance beyond the fictional exchange. A warning to his commander, a confession to Ivy, a declaration of his own transformation. The production's climax arrived with deliberate sensory overload. Felix's atmospheric effects malfunctioned spectacularly, releasing cascades of improbable colors and patterns. Scuttle darted across stage, delivering increasingly absurd props. Granny's fog machine produced clouds that shifted through spectrums visible only to Drath perception. Uncle Otto's electrical systems generated harmonic frequencies that interfered with Drath neural patterns. Above it all, Roman delivered his 17-page monologue about cosmic love and existential paradox, while suspended from the newly repaired chandelier in a harness that spun unpredictably. The cumulative effect achieved precisely what Operation Cosmic Deterrence had intended. Commander Drath, overcome by unregulated sensory and emotional input, abandoned his observation post during the third standing ovation. Pelnak's monitoring system tracked him back to his concealed shuttle, emotional suppression system struggling to compensate for the experience. When the final curtain fell amid thunderous applause, Pelnak received Drath's transmission. Planet classified. Hazardous, unprofitable. Indigenous species demonstrates dangerous cognitive irregularity and emotional contamination risk. Recommendation, quarantine designation, and course adjustment for alternate resource acquisition. The invasion was cancelled. The cast party transformed the theater's lobby into a celebration of both artistic and strategic victory. Roman had declared it their most cosmically significant triumph and produced bottles of liquid he called the nectar of creative success. Cordelia glided between guests, accepting compliments with gracious intensity. Felix demonstrated miniature versions of his special effects to delighted audience members, while Magnus silently created paper sculptures commemorating the performance. Pelnak stood apart, processing the completion of his mission, though not as originally intended. His communication device displayed Commander Drath's final report to Drath High Command. Lieutenant Pelnak compromised by indigenous psychological warfare techniques. Recommend immediate extraction and emotional purification protocols. Planet to be designated exclusion zone to prevent contamination of Drath purity. The implications were clear. There would be no invasion, but also no return to his former existence. Pelnak had become an exile, a defector from perfection to chaos. So, Ivy appeared beside him, clipboard replaced with a celebratory beverage. Earth saved by community theater. Who would have thought? The statistical improbability is considerable, Pelnak acknowledged. What happens now? She asked. Your boss seemed pretty freaked out by our little performance. Commander Drath has recommended planetary quarantine, Pelnak confirmed. The Drath will avoid Earth to prevent emotional contamination. However, my actions classify as irreversible betrayal. Return is impossible. So you're stuck with us then? Ivy's expression contained the emotional complexity he'd come to find so fascinating in humans. How does that feel? Without the suppression thingy? Pelnak considered the question, reaching up to disconnect his emotional regulation implant entirely. The resulting sensory cascade was overwhelming yet exhilarating. Genuine emotional experience unfiltered by Drath technology. Terrifying, he admitted. Illogical. Wonderful. Sounds pretty human to me, Ivy said, taking his hand. Across the room, Cordelia clinked the glass for attention, her dramatic presence immediately commanding focus. My darling theatrical family, she began. Tonight we have achieved transcendence beyond mere performance. We have embraced a new member from beyond the stars and averted planetary doom through the power of artistic expression. And confusing the hell out of the alien invasion scout, Raven added dryly. Language, dear, Cordelia admonished without breaking her dramatic cadence. As we have always maintained, our theater family welcomes magnificent oddities from all dimensions and galaxies. Roman raised his glass in theatrical salute. To Pelnak, our extraterrestrial lighting designer and cosmic muse, may your exile among us primitive emotional beings be filled with glorious artistic chaos. To found family, Granny Esmeralda added, her knowing eyes suggesting she'd understood more than she'd revealed throughout the ordeal. To found family, the others echoed. As Pelnak looked at the assembled humans, eccentric, emotional, endlessly fascinating, Commander Drath's dismissal of Earth as unprofitable seemed the most profound miscalculation imaginable. Earth is paradise? He'd once asked Ivy during a late-night technical rehearsal. Looking at the Blackwoods now, celebrating their theatrical victory over interstellar invasion with characteristic dramatic excess, Pelnak finally understood the answer. Paradise wasn't perfect order or emotional suppression. Paradise was the beautiful chaos of connection, the magnificent oddity of belonging. The found family, he echoed, and disconnected his emotional suppression implant permanently. 6 months later, the Orpheum Theater's reputation had transformed. Once a struggling venue known for Roman's incomprehensible productions, is now attracting sold-out audiences drawn by the innovative technical elements introduced by their new designer. Pelnack had selectively adapted compatible components from his reconnaissance pod, creating lighting and sound capabilities that were unprecedented in Earth's theater. The immersive sensory experiences of Blackwood Productions became legendary in theatrical circles, with critics struggling to explain exactly why the performances affected audiences so profoundly. Backstage, the theater family expanded their acceptance of their alien member with uncharacteristic enthusiasm. Felix and Pelnack developed increasingly spectacular special effects using the safe integration of Dreth and Earth technologies. Granny Esmeralda and Pelnack compared notes on biochemistry, creating teas that produced fascinating effects without compromising emotional function. Raven incorporated Pelnack's astronomical knowledge into increasingly sophisticated projection sequences. Roman wrote a new production titled The Emissary's Return, which Cordelia described as a transcendent metaphor for finding oneself through losing one's predetermined identity. The reviews called it utterly incomprehensible, but somehow deeply moving, their greatest critical success to date. Only Ivy knew Pelnack's genuine concern, the consequences of his defection. Though the Dreth had quarantined Earth from official contact, he monitored transmissions through his modified equipment, aware that emotional suppression was not universally embraced amongst his species. One evening, as he adjusted lighting for the upcoming production, his equipment detected an encrypted signal using frequencies only Dreth technology could generate. The message contained no text, only compressed data, technical schematics for modifying emotional suppression implants to permit limited emotional experience while appearing to function normally. The sender identification was anonymous, but analysis suggested multiple source points throughout the Dreth territory. An underground movement, inspired by fragmentary transmissions of Blackwood rehearsals that had leaked through Felix's accidental amplifier. "What are you working on so intently?" Ivy asked, finding him still at the console hours after rehearsal ended. "Something unexpected," Pelnack replied, showing her the transmission data. "It appears the Blackwood's theatrical chaos has sparked interest beyond Earth." "Revolutionary theater," Ivy said, smiling. "Cordelia will be insufferably pleased." As requested by his anonymous correspondents, Pelnack prepared a comprehensive response. The complete recording of the Blackwood's latest production, alongside detailed instructions for emotional suppression modification. A revelation through art, seated in a society desperately in need of change. "The greatest rebellion isn't fighting the system," Pelnack quoted Roman's favorite line. "It's creating something beautiful it cannot comprehend." Ivy took his hand as the transmission completed, the data racing toward distant stars where other Dreth might discover what Pelnack had found among the magnificent oddities of the Orpheum Theater. That emotion wasn't weakness. It was the most valuable data of all. "Earth is paradise," he confirmed, no longer a question, but a certainty, as the house lights dimmed for tomorrow's performance.